Your Excellency, I asked you last night, when was the moment you knew you had to host this or this happened to you, for you? When was that moment? Look at all of this. You've experienced so much in this room today.
I think just even being around them, the mothers, and I realized that they are my mothers. I have to put them on a platform. So the moment when I was speaking to them individually as well, and that's, I think, when I realized
speaking to them individually. Yeah. And now, hearing them together like a cluster of the most beautiful blossoms, what has touched you? What has happened for you?
Everything. I realized that I did the right thing, and I'm grateful to them. And now we have tasked them, so we're going to make sure we do the right thing for them.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause. Let's appreciate you heard it. Now, we're going to do the right thing for them and indeed for this nation. Congratulations, Your Excellency, and always such a joy to be at your service. For her closing remarks, our host convener, Her Excellency Aisha Babangida. Thank you.
Thank you.
Round of applause, please. A round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dayo. Mama, better life. I can hear you far away. Good afternoon, my very, very distinguished mothers and the gentlemen here. And good afternoon to the mothers of the nation, as beautiful as you are. Let me start by thanking all the mothers of the nation present for so graciously agreeing to be here and to support the Mothers of the Nation initiative. So I hope this will be the first of many events to celebrate the achievements of our dear mothers. So I'd like to thank all of you for being here today, especially those of you who traveled long distances. And I'd particularly like to thank distinguished Senator Daisy Danjuma, who so graciously agreed to be our chair today. She is not only an outstanding public servant, but was also a very, very close friend of my late mother's and remains a much-loved family friend. We are all here to pay tribute to our mothers of outstanding courage, wisdom, and integrity. Ladies who have served their country selflessly and often without due recognition. And those commitment to the betterment of our country remains unwavering. I'm sure I'm not the only person here who is in awe of these amazing ladies and truly inspired by their examples. They have lived through some of the pivotal moments in our country's history. They were there when historic decisions were made, when their husbands had to deal with major crisis and took the fate of our nation into their hands. And yet their role as First Lady was to maintain their composure, to observe proper decorum at all times, and to represent Nigerian womanhood at its best. History is often seen as something that is made by great men. And it is said that behind every great man stands a great woman. But throughout the modern history of Nigeria, our first ladies have not stood passively behind their husbands. They have been a source of unstinted moral support, of quiet political and intellectual counsel, and of course, of emotional comfort and solace. And not only for their husbands. Ever since our country gained independence in 1960, our first ladies have been public figures committed to the common good of all Nigerians. So, it has been a privilege to hear from ladies who played such a vital role at the beginning of Nigeria's journey as an independent nation. helping to manage the many challenges of bringing together such a vast, diverse country. Their Excellencies, Mrs. Uche Azikiwe, Mrs. Victoria Iransin, and Mrs. Victoria Gawan, and Mrs. Ajoke Mohammed, who had to leave. We're married to some of independent Nigeria's earliest presidents and represent the generation that helped shape our nation as a self-governing entity. On that note, I would also like to thank those family members of the late Alhaji Tafawa Balewa and of Alhaji Shehu Shagari, as well as my own family, for being here today. In the beginning, some detractors said independence will never work, that Nigerians were not capable of self-government, or that the nation would inevitably be divided between North and South, Muslims and Christians. Too many different ethnicities, languages, and perspectives. And of course, we faced more than our share of difficulties. Flattering democracy, civil war, social and economic upheaval, but through it all, Nigeria has endured. So it has been equally fascinating to hear from those who have served as First Lady in more recent decades. Their Excellencies, Mrs. Mariam Abacha, Mrs. Margaret Shonekon, Mrs. Fatia Bokar, I feel very strange calling them Mrs., but please forgive me. So Mrs. Ture Yaradua and Mrs. Patience Jonathan. All the First Ladies present today served their country with distinction, as did their husbands. Of course, in any democracy, people will have different views about the merits of particular heads of state. I'm sure we all have our own preferences and biases, but the Nigerian people have never given up hope that we can be a successful democracy, that we can have a flourishing civil society and a booming economy. Nigerian men and women have worked hard to improve their own lives and the life of the nation. And very often the spirit of the nation has been best captured not only by the man who yields power at any given time, but by the lady at his side. The First Lady is close to power, but crucially, she takes a step back from politics. She is a witness to close quarters to the decisive moments that shape the nation's destiny, but she has no direct say over the decisions that are made. Instead, she must rise above day-to-day politics to connect with the people on a more emotional level and to represent the more enduring values of the nation that lie behind the politics of the day and the partisan conflicts with which her husband must contend. We are very lucky to have had many First Ladies who prove themselves to be able to do just that. But I hope the mothers will forgive me if I take a moment to focus on one First Lady in particular. A lady who, I believe, embodied the best qualities shared by all our esteemed First Ladies. And of course, I'm thinking of my late mother, Dr. Mayam Babangida. We recently marked the 10th anniversary of my mother's death that came nearly 2 decades after my father's time in office. But my mother was still fondly remembered by all who had known her and by countless Nigerians, home and abroad. Of course, my mother was famous for being very glamorous, but she was also much more than that. Truly a woman of substance. She became a role model for many Nigerian women, with an enduring appeal that lasted until she passed away. She was a passionate champion of women's issues, and especially women's rural development. My mother founded the Better Life program for the African rural women in 1986 and the Mayam Babangida National Center for Women's Development in 1993. She also reached out to the first ladies of other African nations in order to forge connections with them and to share ideas about how first ladies can improve the lives of the people. Many of the first ladies who came after my mother have continued her good work and built on legacies just as she built on the legacies of those who came before her. But in my own humble way, I have also been privileged to be able to continue my mother's work, especially through the Better Life program, which just goes to show that our first ladies can make a lasting difference by inspiring others to follow their lead. My mother certainly inspired me. She is the reason I stand before you today. I was in awe of her education and all she was able to teach me, her mastery of protocol and knowledge of statecraft, and perhaps especially her personal discipline and basic decency as a person. So I want you all to be as inspired by my mother's example as I am. Let us appreciate and acknowledge her memory and remember her example, not only in all we do, but also in how we do it. So whether you are a politician, or a businesswoman, a wife, a mother, Dr. Mayam Babangida remains a role model to be emulated, above all, as a lady. We can also take inspiration from my incredible first ladies, mothers of the nation, who have graced our nation. So once again, I am enormously grateful to our dear First Ladies who are here today and who have agreed to support the Mothers of the Nation initiative. In the years to come, they will be helping to unlock the potential of Nigeria's women by championing worthy causes, from the education of the girl child to the empowerment of widows. Today is the beginning of an initiative that will involve numerous lectures and cultural programs in order to build on the legacy of my mother and Nigeria's other remarkable First Ladies. So I want to make today the inaugural annual celebration of the Mothers of the Nation. Next year, and the year after, and the year after that, we will gather again to share ideas, to celebrate successes, and to plan further events and initiatives. So I am eternally grateful to you all for being part of it from the very beginning. I hope you would have all taken something out of the sessions today, whether that is lessons about the potential of development, inspiration about the future of Nigeria, or reassurance about the basic decency of our nation, as embodied by our mothers of the nation. On that note, let me end with a vote of thanks. And I would like all my mothers to remain seated and ask each and every one of us here to please be on our feet, respectfully so, and my chairman should stay seated too. I want to do a little prayer first before I tell you what I want to do. First of all, I would like to pray to God for our beautiful mothers here. May God continue to protect you. May He give you good health. May He give you the patience to tolerate us. And may He just put warmth and love in your heart to do good for us, because you are selfless. And as you came here today, may God take you back to your destination safely. Now, please I would like each and every one of us here to give them a resounding round of applause. To our wonderful First Ladies, thank you very much. Thank you.